from WBBZ-TV Sports. It's time to Beat the Champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
From Lucky Lanes in Fredonia, welcome to Beat the Champ. Hi, everybody. My name is Paul Peck, joined by Hall of Fame bowler Sue Novoitsky. We have come to the southern tier for Beat the Champ into one of the classic bowling houses in all of Western New York.
Yes, Paul, this is a family-run bowling center similar to what we've seen in the past. The dad built this bowling center, and now his son Paul runs it, so it's been around since 1959.
A lot of great history here, and we're going to have a lot of great bowling here today as well. We've got a good mix of some of the young up-and-coming bowlers in Western New York, like our returning Beat the Champ winner Chad Mee, and then we've got our regular on this show, Tony Dolan, back to try to keep winning. Should be a good mix of bowlers here this afternoon.
That's right. We have a couple right-handers, we have a couple left-handers, so we'll see what fends out here at Lucky Lanes.
All right, well, are you feeling lucky? Are you? Well, we're going to find out because we're in the right place. It's Beat the Champ, and it gets rolling right now. A couple of young guns will start us off. That's Chad Mee, our returning winner on the right, 20 years old from Hamburg, and that is Justin Zimmerman, 24 years old from Cheektowaga, New York. So always cool to see a little bit of the future of this sport on display here in this show, Sue.
That's true. We have a couple young guys today, and Justin's an upcoming left-hander. And I watched him practice a little bit today, and he's got a pretty good rev rate, and he throws it really well. Chad's got his hands full here.
Justin Zimmerman been bowling for about 14 of his 24 years. Bowled collegiately at Canisius College, and here we go on Beat the Champ from Lucky Lanes in Fredonia, and a great way for Justin to start things off.
That's it. He got out of the gate really well. That first ball tends to be a little nerves, standing around a little while. So that was really crisp off his hand.
Chad Mee on a streak of 2 consecutive wins here on Beat the Champ from last month's show held at Transit Lanes. He won his last 2 matches and obviously took home that trophy. And not the way he wanted to start, leaving 3 pins on the right-hand side there.
Lanes are a little tricky today. We've talked about synthetics versus wood lanes before, and these are wood lanes, so they do tend to play a little different. He's going to have to be very firm and hit his target. His target is should be between the second board and the third board.
And he will leave an open frame on the first roll, will Chad Mee. We've had 2 houses with wood lanes so far and Beat the Champ, and we've had 2 with the synthetics, and we've talked a little bit about the differences between the 2 and how the bowlers have to adapt to that. Obviously, they see more of the synthetic lanes than they do the wood lanes, so it's a bit of an adjustment, isn't it?
It is, because the fronts play completely different. The heads of the lane, the first 20 feet are what you have to really manage. If you see, he got that one very firm out onto the lane and kind of negated the front of the lane, which is where all the squirrely stuff happens.
Right. The oil's going to tend to be a little more in the middle on an older lane like this?
Yes, because the front of the front wears down faster because of the wood. It kind of absorbs the oil.
Mm-hmm. Lucky Lanes here on Route 60 in Fredonia dates back to the late 50s, as many of the bowling alleys around Western New York do. We'll talk a lot more about the history of this place coming up later on in the month and some of our other shows, as we'll get a chance to sit down with the Nosics, who are the owners here. Ooh, and a tough 7-10 leave for Justin Zimmerman on his second frame. So right off the bat, these guys are probably working through a little bit of the nerves here of getting going. Justin, very impressive. I believe it was a 790 series to qualify, correct?
794. He was the high qualifier here, which is really a great score on these lane conditions to qualify in a 3-game match that was.
So Justin will at least pick up the 10 pin.
That's such a tough leave. That's when you hit the pocket and leave a 7-10. There's nothing more.
It's discouraging just mentally, isn't it? There's nothing worse that you want to stare at than those 2 pins remaining.
It's like one or the other, not both.
Right. So after the first 2 frames, maybe the guys have kind of worked the kinks out here a little bit. And let's see if these guys get back to being the bowlers that we know they have been through their young bowling careers. Nice, easy motion for Justin. Strikes on 2 of the first 3 for Justin Zimmerman, and back to the boards comes Chad Mee. As we talked about, one of the young, bright, up-and-coming bowlers here in Western New York, Junior Team USA, a 4-time state champion at Frontier High School for the native of Hamburg. And another bit of an unusual leave there for Chad this time.
It's actually almost the same exact leave. He just got he kicked the 6 out, but he's cutting this one a little bit short. He's having a little trouble on lane 8.
Remember, Chad won the 2 matches on his winning streak at a different bowling alley at Transit Lanes. So that's going to be 2 open frames in the first 3 for Chad Mee, and the look on his face sort of tells you exactly how that's going over with him.
Looks like he's not quite sure.
And that's not unusual, Mike, at a place that maybe he hasn't bowled that very much, to take him a little while to kind of figure the place out. But unfortunately, in this competition, you don't get a lot of that. And there we go. That's what we're used to. So at least it strikes in 2 of the first 4 for Chad to go along with those open frames. But again, the pressure on in a 1 frame, a 10-frame, 1-game roll-off, there's not a lot of margin for error.
No, we are finding that it's hard to continue to win it on this format.
And I think that's been one of the most interesting things that we've talked to a lot of the bowlers about since this show has gotten up and rolling, is that it's different. These guys are used to kind of bowling series, and you can have a bad frame or 2 or even a bad game sometimes and still be victorious, and that margin for error is gone.
Absolutely.
Just couldn't get the 7-pin to wobble enough there. Justin's got his dad David, and his grandfather Ted here in the audience watching him bowl his debut on Beat the Champ.
Absolutely. He bowls at Airport on Friday nights, carries a 220 average there.
I mentioned to you 4 years as a bowler at Canisius College is Jordan Zimmerman, and he'll finish off the spare.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
So now Chad has put the pressure right back on Justin.
That's right, he's closed the gap to 2 pins.
Just a 2-pin advantage for Cheektowaga's Justin Zimmerman, 24 years old. Full-time job as a mortgage processor, just out of college, as we mentioned at Canisius. Let's see how he responds.
Oh. There was a slow messenger.
That was like a time warp there. It's like, how long are we going to wait? Is that thing going to fall or not? The messenger was slow.
Very
on that
slow.
One, right?
But that 710 was staying there for a couple minutes. Didn't want to see that again.
So Justin is able to at least rescue the spare here, using that bowling ball with the Yankee emblem and logo on it as we approach the start of baseball season. Appropriate.
Yep, this is a big area for Yankee fans, isn't it?
Well, all Western New York's a big area for Yankee fans. I don't think there's any doubt that there are more Yankee fans in this area than there are any other team's fans.
Seems like it.
So he's changed balls here now because he's not using the Yankee ball.
The Yankee ball is his spare ball. The Yankee ball is
leaving that 7-pin, huh?
The Yankee ball is designed to go straight, so he'll use it to pick up his corner
So
pins.
that's, you just target right at the pin that you need.
Right.
No hook, no turn. Now he's got the Yankee logo on this one for the same. This is the same ball we're talking about.
Yes, this is his straight ball, so he uses this for spares.
And he drives in the run with the Yankee ball to get the runner home on the spare here.
I myself don't understand how you cannot have a spare ball.
Right. Well, it makes perfect sense. I mean, you know, again, if you need to make a specific target at a specific ball, you want one that just goes straight.
Some people can flatten out their strike ball, but the balls are so high performance that I trust the straight ball better.
Ooh, and there, you see the reaction of Chad slapping his thighs after a little confusion as to how he left what he left there, and you can still see the look on his face. Not happy about that.
This lane 8 has been a definite challenge for him.
So,
and he hasn't left anything makeable on it either. They've all been splits.
That was a little bit of a throw the ball through the back of a bowling alley. Don't forget, later on in our show, we want you to keep watching for our Gary Poole's Great Grill Giveaway Watch and Win Word. You can register to win a Broil Master Deluxe Gas Grill from Gary Poole's and Leisure. Keep watching this episode of Beat the Champ. Look for the keyword and then go to WBBZ-TV and enter to win. And there's a strike from Chad Mee. So really, this one's going to come right down to the last couple of rolls, isn't it?
Well, he's going to need to strike out to even force Justin to come up and mark. Justin has him beat just by keeping the ball in the lane unless he strikes out. Then Justin will have to get a spare in the 10th frame.
As you can see, our scoreboard this week brought to you by Castellone Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in Batavia. And he's not going to happen for Chad.
No, that'll be a 167. It will be his maximum score, and Justin's got 160 already in the 9th. So
the winning
Justin will be moving on.
The winning streak will come to an end for Chad at 2 in a row. And again, Justin coming in as our top qualifier here as we change houses for this week's edition of Beat the Champ, and Justin carrying the advantage of having bowled well here in the qualifier. And he's going to allow him to move on, where he's going to take on Tony Dolan. That's going to be our next match.
Now we'll have two left-handers bowling each other, so they'll be playing the same part of the lane. So you'll see them have to make adjustments because they'll wear down the lane in the same spots.
So Jordan will just play it safe and finish it out here. Justin, I got to stop calling him Jordan. He's a winner. I got to get the name right. Justin will finish it out here with a victory. Nothing worse than getting the guys' names wrong, right?
It's on
Grandma,
his back. It's on his
Grandma
back,
in Cheektowaga will be very upset. I know, it's right on the back of his shirt, right? Hello. We don't want any of the Zimmerman family mad at me. I don't want to have to run into Grandpa Ted and have to explain myself, so.
So it's going to be a rather low-scoring match for this first one.
I think as we saw right off the bat, the guys struggled a little bit with some open frames there right off the beginning, and taking a little while to get a feel for the lanes here at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. And a nice way to finish it off for Justin Zimmerman. That will clinch the victory for him. Shake of the hands with Chad Mee. It's a 182 to 166 win for the man on the left that you just saw, Justin Zimmerman. When we come back to Lucky Lanes in Fredonia, we'll talk to both guys about this match, get Justin's feel for going up against one of the hottest bowlers in Western New York. That's Tony Dolan. That's our next match when we come back right here on Beat the Champ. It's a 182 to 166 win for Justin Zimmerman over Chad Mee. You struggled a little bit to get a feel for the lanes a little bit, and your frustration was obvious a little bit.
Right lane was looking a little more. I just couldn't find a way to strike on it. Threw some really bad balls, but it happens.
Part of this sport is kind of learning how to come to places you're not often at and figure them out, isn't it?
Yep, exactly that.
Justin, this was your first time on TV. Did you have any nerves?
A little bit, yeah. But after the first shot or two, I was calm.
So you're taking on another left-hander now, so it'll be a new strategy.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting match. I bowled with Tony a lot recently and just beat the champ and things, so it'll be fun.
Well,
fun.
for Tony Dolan, it'll be his 4th appearance on Beat the Champ, more than anybody else. Can Justin knock him off? We'll find out. That's our next match when we come back to Lucky Lanes in Fredonia right here on Beat the Champ. There's Justin Zimmerman, our returning winner, and Tony Dolan, a familiar face here on Beat the Champ. He's so familiar, at some point we're just going to add him to the show. We're going to put him in the credits.
We're going to put him, give him another seat up here.
This will be his 7th different match here on Beat the Champ. So,
in three different locations.
And his 4th different show in 3 locations, and obviously there isn't anybody bowling better right now in Western New York than Tony Dolan. We'll talk a little bit about that moving forward, but Justin Zimmerman is pretty hot himself, and hot here coming off the big series to qualify and the win over Chad Mee in the first match of the day. And here we go. And a nice way to start things off for Justin Zimmerman with a strike in the first frame.
It's kind of interesting watching these two left-handers approach the lane differently, because Justin has a little higher rev rate, and he was standing far more to the right, throwing the ball out to the left and watching it come back. And we're going to watch Tony. He's going to be much more down and in, straight up the lane.
I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, how many times have we had a lefty versus a lefty here on Beat the Champ? I don't know that that's happening very often at all, if at all.
I don't remember it happening, actually.
Tony Dolan's 39 years old, from West Seneca, been bowling for almost all of his life and has been bowling at an incredibly high level, particularly right now. 2015 Obenauer Masters champion, last year's Buffalo Bowling Association Bowler of the Year, and those are just a couple of the headlines on a long list of achievements for Tony.
I love
Nice way
Tony's
to
game
start.
because he keeps it simple. That one, he actually missed his target a little bit to the right, but it was okay because he's very firm, very down and in, and it gives him a little bit of margin for error.
As you heard Justin say when we did our interview with him before, he and Tony have bowled against each other a lot, both of them with ties to Canisius College. Tony actually one of the guys who started the program there, and Justin obviously a recent graduate, 4 years on the bowling team there for the Griffs. So a lot of connections between these two, and that always adds a nice little layer of intrigue to these matches.
Well, there's nothing like college bowling. This gives these kids a lot of experience. So anyone that keeps these programs going, kudos to them.
So as we saw a little bit in the first match against Chad Mee, particularly on lane number 8, Justin tends to leave that 7-pin a little bit.
Again, he's opening up the lane somewhat. So, the further you go away from the pocket, it seems like that leaves the most margin for error for these corner pins.
So he grabs that Yankees logoed spare ball and he'll try to knock that 7-pin out of the park. And he does. So we're right off the bat looking like a pretty good match here. 3 strikes of the 4 frames already. Justin knows he's in for a battle. He'll have to keep striking.
Justin's showing a lot of couth for someone who's never bowled on TV before. He's very calm. He's very solid, makes good shots. I'm very impressed.
Well, you don't throw a lot of compliments around very easily, so that means an awful lot. Again, I noticed a nice, easy stroke, and that just got away from him.
Oh, again, he's opening up the lane, and it's tough on these on wood lanes. It's the more down and in you can be, and we talked about it back at Kearns on the wood lanes too. It's like the player who is more down and in, the straighter player, does seem to have an advantage. The ball just doesn't recover as strong as it does on synthetics, because the synthetics will delay the hook a lot longer.
So you just want to get as many of these pins as you can, right?
It's makeable.
All right, hey,
Almost.
not bad. Not bad. Still going to go as an open frame here in the 3rd for Justin, but he did pick up 3 of the 4 that he had left. And I think, some of the look on Justin's face after that first roll was not only the frustration of leaving that many pins, but knowing that I'm bowling Tony Dolan, and if I open the door, he's going to run right through it.
Yeah, Tony doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's very, very accurate.
3 straight strikes for Tony Dolan. He is the only bowler so far since Beat the Champ has returned to win 3 matches in a row. As we mentioned, this is his 4th appearance on the show, 4th show that he's been on. An overall record of 4 wins and 2 losses for Tony, who has already built the early 24-pin lead. But off the stat sheet that we've been keeping for the week-to-week competitions here, nobody's got the numbers that Tony Dolan has since Beat the Champ has returned.
Nope. For all the different places he's bowled, he has a composite average of 219 for the Beat the Champ show, which is in 2 different houses, 1 synthetic, 1 wood. So that's very consistent.
He took home the trophy, our week 4 winner at the Kearns Avenue Bowling Center. That's Tony's only trophy at the moment, but like we said, he has dominated our statistics and dominated the bowling here on Beat the Champ as he has dominated most of Western New York bowling for the last couple of years. So Justin's got a little work to do, down on the pin count and coming off that little bit of a frustrating frame, and that's how you bounce back here in the 4th. So Justin Zimmerman finds the groove a little bit on that bit of an unlucky 8th lane here at Lucky Lanes. They're not all lucky, even though we're called Lucky Lanes, right? Yeah, well,
this place makes you throw it good.
It's better to be good than lucky, no matter what, right? Even if you are here. All right, that's enough for the lucky references.
Well, this place used to be called Modern Lanes when it first opened, and they changed it to Lucky Lanes.
I like Lucky Lanes. It obviously rolls off the tongue, and there's a history to the name that we'll talk about in the coming week. Lucky Lou, right?
Beautiful shot.
So Justin's on a roll with a couple of strikes in a row, and don't forget, keep watching, because later on in the show, we'll have our Gary Poole's Great Grill Giveaway Watch and Win word. Once you see the word, go to WBBZ-TV and enter to win. We're going to be giving away 1 Broilmaster H4 Deluxe Gas Grill every month from April through July. So keep watching and keep registering, and you can find all the contest rules and registration information at WBBZ.TV. No purchase necessary. And there's the first leave tap, thank you, for Tony Dolan. See, I'm learning. You didn't get me your list of glossary terms yet.
That's the only thing that's going to stop this man is a true tap. That's what that was. 9-pin.
So that's the only one he leaves here. That's the only one he's left so far after running with strikes in his first 4 frames. And Tony will finish off the spare.
We're going to be back with more Beat the Champ bowling action in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
Towards the end of the month of February, Tony bowling in a team tournament in Leroy, finishing 2nd with his teammates. He had a 1,024 4-game series in that tournament. That was high for the weekend.
Wow.
That's good. That's a pretty good number, huh?
Yeah, he can strike.
So Justin eyes the lanes here, back on lane number 8 for his 8th frame.
It's a 256 average.
That's pretty amazing,
That's
isn't
pretty
it?
amazing.
Seem to be saying that a lot about Tony, but that's a tribute to his excellence and fine work, and a little frustration on the face of Justin Zimmerman with another leave of 3 pins.
Again, opening up the lane. Down and in is definitely the trick to these lanes.
And that'll be an open frame in the 8th for Justin Zimmerman. And that pretty much should clinch the victory for Tony to move on and take on our next challenger, Dan Melidona. It's a 37-pin lead right now for Tony Dolan.
Well, his max score here is 200, so Tony only has to, he doesn't even need a mark, he just needs good count in both frames to beat that.
And a good strike there in the 9th frame for Justin.
That was a great shot.
So the winning streak of 1 will come to an end for Justin, and Tony will get to work on another winning streak. We mentioned he is the only Beat the Champ bowler to have won 3 games in a row, and he'll get to work on trying to see if he can pull that off again. And he gives himself a chance to be our first repeat winner on Beat the Champ. We have yet to have someone who's taken the trophy home twice. Tony's got that chance if he wins his next match against Dan Melidona.
That's right. He's got a 5-2 record here on our show now. 7 matches, 5-2.
Right, and again, not a surprise, as well as he has been bowling, coming off the Obenauer win, Bowler of the Year. I mean, he's on a roll right now,
And he's
literally and figuratively.
Comfortable with the cameras now. I mean, he's used to being here.
Yeah, you know, we can be kind of intimidating when he's sitting here talking all the time, right?
We only say good things about him.
Absolutely. But there's no question, we've talked about that on our earlier shows, there is a little adjustment for these guys, bowling with the cameras, with the crowd, everybody's eyes on them, you know, dealing with everything that they're dealing with, hearing all the commentary and the noise and everything.
I know, I think I'm ready to try one of these. Oh, that's called a paralyzer, by the way.
A paralyzer, see, that's a new one. We need something blinking on the screen. Sue's just dropped a new word on us, a paralyzer. Now, explain that to me.
Well, when the 5-pin gets spun back up again, and it spins around, and it should by all means go down, but it stands back up, it's a paralyzer.
You did not do your homework of preparing your glossary list for me. I'm going to put the pressure on for you.
We're still building it.
I want that in my hands here when we go to Manor Lanes 2 next month. I want it, and we want to get it on the Facebook page, and we want to educate Western New Yorkers on all this stuff.
I can tell you how many people have asked me for this glossary already.
I want people at home going, hey, that's a paralyzer. So it's going to be a victory for Tony Dolan, a shake of the hands with his friend and Canisius College alum, Justin Zimmerman, and Tony is going to move on, and he'll be our winner here as he posts up a 227 score. And we'll let Justin finish things out here and get a chance to talk to both of them. And that is as much wobble as I've ever seen a pin without falling down.
Yep.
Like
It's not giving him any breaks.
Crazy glue on the bottom of it. That's unbelievable. That's amazing. That thing was almost like 45 degrees down.
Oh, I've seen it hanging in the gutter. It's half in, half out, and still standing out.
And I guess in some ways, maybe Justin will say that's a little bit typical of the way things went for him today. Just couldn't get a lot of the rolls that he needed and a lot of the pins to drop the way he wanted them to. So one more here to finish things out for Justin, and then we'll get a chance to talk to Tony and Justin and get Tony's feels on getting his 5th Beat the Champ match victory.
Tony's building up his Beat the Champ average, adding to it today.
Yeah, see, you did do your homework on keeping up his average, as you mentioned, a 219 average. So it's a 227 to 179 win for Tony Dolan over Justin Zimmerman. And when we come back to Lucky Lanes in Fredonia, we'll talk to both guys and get their feel about this one and preview our next one when Tony moves on to take on Dan Melidona, and we'll award a trophy at the end of that. That's all coming up next right here on Beat the Champ from Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. It's a 227 to 179 victory for Tony Dolan over Justin Zimmerman. Aside from the fact that you just didn't get a lot of luck and a lot of falls, bowling against Tony probably was on your mind a little too, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. You know, I mean, if you're going to lose, you might as well lose to the guys beating everyone. So, you know.
Right. But it's a little intimidating sometimes. You almost got to strike out every time.
Yeah, I mean, when he opens up with the front 4 like that and I get an open in the 3rd, it put me in a big hole right off the bat. So, you know.
Well, hang in there. I mean, it was fun, but like you said, it's a sport that the ups and downs can always happen, can't they?
Right, yeah. You never know what's going to happen. So.
Right.
We meet again, Tony. What's your secret out here?
Oh, just maybe the luck of the lanes.
The luck of the lanes, huh?
It's been doing pretty good, and everybody's been bowling halfway decent. So.
Modest.
Right. Tony, aside from your performances on this show, you've been bowling great for the last couple of years. Is there something that you did or something that changed in the way that you prepare that's led to all this success?
I've looked at bowling as analyzed it a little differently and studied the lanes more, and talking with Dave Williamson in spare time and drilling bowling balls and stuff like that. It's more kind of a science now, and you're learning to adjust to everything that's changing, and I see things differently.
All right, a little bowling analytics dropped on us there by Tony Dolan. Analytics are in all sports. Let's see if Tony can analyze his next opponent. Dan Melidona next up for Tony Dolan as he looks to get another win here when we come back on Beat the Champ. It's a chance for Tony Dolan to become our first two-time Beat the Champ weekly winner, but he'll have to get through Dan Melidona first. And Dan will start things off here in our third match of the day at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. 27 years old from Williamsville is Dan Melidona, bowls mostly out of transit lanes. We've seen Dan on the show before. He was on our Transit Lanes Championship show, which came up a couple of weeks ago.
That's right. He made the show in our league qualifier that we held for the 2 months prior to the show. And averaged 755 to make that show.
So this is Dan's first appearance on our regular competition, as he was the third qualifier here at Lucky Lanes, and starts things off by leaving the 10 pin. And once again, I think that's a tribute to what Tony has done, is everybody that bowls against him knows anything less than a strike is going to put them in a hole.
That was a good shot out of the gate for him, though, and a good spare. Good cover on the 10 pin.
So Dan gets the spare to start things off and turns it over to Tony, who will start off here on lane number 8. 5 wins so far here on Beat the Champ for Tony Dolan, more than anybody else. No one else has more than 2.
This is his 8th match.
Pretty amazing.
It is.
Late turn in for the strike. That was a really late hook there, wasn't it?
Oh, it's just another day in the office for him.
All right. Just another typical Tony Dolan throw. Now, I want you to talk a little bit about what Tony was talking about when you start to get into the science of bowling, because he's a guy who, as he said, contributes some of his success to that.
Well, he's a bright guy, and he's really analyzing it, looking at it a little bit more thorough than just, execution of a shot and just the physical part of the game, because this game is very, very mental, very much has a lot of science to it with physics. When you drill the bowling ball up, they're all about weight blocks. It's all about fractions and the mechanics of what the weight block in the ball forces the ball to do. And then you've got covers on the ball, that affects it. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to analyze if you really want to dig that deep into it. And he wants to learn about all of that. The ball drillers are very much masters at that. They understand the physics, they understand the fractions, they understand the surfaces and how it affects the oil and the weight blocks in the ball.
How much, if I asked you to put a percentage on it, how much of all of that, of what you're talking about, related to the ball and the science and the covering and whatever, what's the percentage of that versus the percentage of you as a bowler and your technique and your swing and all those other things?
I think it depends whether you want to be, if you're a house bowler and you just want to bowl league once a week, then just physically getting 1 or 2 bowling balls, then keeping it as simple as you can and moving on the lanes, making your adjustments are good enough. If you want to compete on a higher level, if you want to bowl tournaments, if you want to bowl the national tournament, and maybe some pro stops along the way, you're definitely going to have to learn the rest of it, because it's going to be a lot about adjusting, a lot about knowing what your bowling balls do. It's that's when it becomes a science.
So Dan's off to a good start. And a little hop up as he was hoping he could get that thing to fall, and it'll leave the 10 pin there and a chance for another spare for Dan.
This is going to be a good match because I like the way Dan's playing the lanes. He's playing the lanes to the right where you need to, keeping the ball out of trouble, keeping it pretty straight, down and in. He's going to give Tony a little bit of a run for his money today.
And there's the spare for Dan in the third frame, and back up comes Tony, who will head out next week to Reno, Nevada, where he will be leaving for the Nationals. Chance to bowl amongst the best in the country at one of the premier bowling centers in all of the country.
Yes, I love bowling at the bowling stadium. It's a beautiful facility in Reno.
I've got a trip to Reno later in the year, and I think you've convinced me that I got to get over there to
It's
see the
beautiful.
bowling stadium.
It's beautiful. And for whatever the reason, it's kind of favors left-handers a bit.
That's not going to help me.
No. They don't let anybody open bowl there, though.
Yeah, well, then you have to call some favors in for me. Then. You can't just go and
You
bowl
absolutely
there,
cannot.
huh?
You absolutely cannot.
All right. Well, I may have you call that one in.
It's every cab driver that's ever picked me up from the airport in Reno and driven me to the bowling stadium has griped about the fact that they can't. That
So everybody wants to.
The locals cannot bowl there.
Everybody wants to do that. So, well, all right. Now you've got me excited.
Oh, it's a beautiful facility.
You can see things are tight on our Castellone, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram scoreboard.
That's right. We have a one-pin match here.
A couple of unlikely leaves here for Tony Dolan in his first 4 frames. Maybe we're just so used to him knocking everything down.
They're both playing the same part of the lane, so they're going to break it down some and force them. I'm sorry, he bowled Justin and broke the lane down.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's forcing him in a little bit, changing his angle to the pocket. So the ball's hitting a little weaker than it did in the last match.
So a strike on the first frame and then 3 consecutive spares for Tony Dolan. And now we head back to Dan, who has 2 spares and a strike in his first 3 frames. So this one is tight. Dan doing a good job here. Dan bowls on Tuesday nights at Transit Lanes, Thursday in the league at Transit Lanes, and then Saturday in the Travel League amongst the Proprietors Association all around Western New York. And that's not what Dan wanted to do, leave the 3, 6, and 10.
Nope, that one was high.
Is there a name
him.
for that? That looks like a picket fence or something. Can I create a nickname there?
You can create one.
All right. There's no name for that when you leave 3 in a row like that?
Actually, it's a clothesline if you have the head pin with it. But the head pin is not with it. But it is a clothesline with a head pin.
Well, give me credit for that then. Call that the picket fence. I want to have credit on your glossary terms for that one.
Paul Peck's picket fence.
Let's see if Dan can knock down the picket fence. He can. Blows through that picket fence. So that's a good recovery for Dan.
It's a good spare.
Again, could be a little bit discouraging to leave that knowing you're bowling against Tony, but able to shake it off.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute.
And the response is what you would expect from Tony, a 3rd consecutive strike. So this one's going to remain tight, but a lead still for Tony Dolan. 12 pins.
Only a 12-pin match, so anything can happen here. They're going to keep putting the pressure on each other.
A trophy on the line here. A weekly Beat the Champ trophy. Tony owns one of them.
Good shot.
Nobody else owns
Great
2 of them.
shot.
Maybe he'll be the first.
He definitely took a little time to make his adjustments, but he's found his pocket now.
Dan Melidona's got his dad Paul here. watching him today, and he bowls with his dad, his uncle, and his brother. They all bowl together on the Thursday night leagues at Transit.
That's right. I know them well.
And they bowl with one of our Beat the Champ regulars, Greg Wojtovich.
The man with the holes in his shoes.
Yeah, Greg couldn't be here for this match, but he'll be here at some point. And another good strike. That's 3 in a row for Dan.
Much needed love tap on that 10-pin. Did we talk about that love tap yet?
No, that's another new one. That's another one you're dropping on us. You've used tap. Now, what's a love tap?
Just a little hit from the pin in the gutter.
Okay,
tapping on that 10-pin to follow, make it fall.
Who makes this stuff up? I know it's not you, although I'll be glad to give you full credit.
Nope. You got to be around a long time to pick this stuff up.
I was going to say, this stuff probably dates back about 50 years, all these nicknames, don't they?
Hey.
I don't mean it that way.
I'm kidding. Great shot.
Dan Melidona continues to put the pressure on. This one's going to come right down to the last couple of rolls.
Keeping this a 12-pin match.
Tony.
It's going to go all the way to the 10th. Figure this one out.
We're at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. First of our 4-week run here on Beat the Champ in the Southern Tier. And Tony responds. These guys are on a roll. 6, 7, 8, 9 frames, strikes across the board for Dan and Tony. And don't forget, right after this match, we'll give you that watch and win word for the Gary Pools Great Grill giveaway. Tenth frame, Tony Dolan.
Oh. That one definitely hit a little lighter.
Yep.
That's going to open the door for Dan to walk right through.
So let's see what happens here. A dramatic turn here in the 10th frame.
So Tony can finish this off with a 237, but Dan can strike out for 248.
So don't go anywhere. This one up for grabs, and that's what's cool about this show and about these matches is they come right down to the end. And
236
that's not
finish.
what Tony wanted, so he'll put the 236 on the board, and now here's Dan Melidona with a chance to win this. And by winning it, he'll win the week, and he'll take the trophy home.
He has to have this first strike in the 10th. If he doesn't strike, Tony's an automatic winner.
All right, so it comes down to this one. Strike for Dan Melidona, and he'll be a winner.
Strike a good count. He starts with this one, though.
And there it is. Dan answers the bell, answers the challenge with the strike, and now a good count, as Sue said, on this roll, and Dan Melidona will come up with a win. So after we had a couple of lower scores in our first couple matches, the guys are starting to find the rhythm a little bit.
He actually needs a 9 spare to shut Tony out. Anything less, it's not over yet.
Dan eyes it up, sets himself. Here we go. Didn't like it, but he likes it now. You might have heard him groaning a little bit as he let the ball go because it just didn't come off his hand right. But hey, at this place, you get a little lucky.
Well,
and he did that time, and it'll be a win for Dan Melidona.
That's not exactly what he wanted to do. But that was a lucky. That was a lucky Lanes hit right there.
They just ask who wins. There's your Castellone of Batavia scoreboard, and it will show us a victory for Dan Melidona. And a nice way to finish it out there as well, too. Good job by Dan Melidona answering the challenge, coming up with the victory. 236 for Tony Dolan, but for Dan Melidona, ending with 7 consecutive strikes, he comes up with the win here and posts an excellent score to get that victory under very pressure-filled situation there at the end.
That's right. That last shot was
really
a little bit of nerves going on, but it worked out.
246 is the final score. 246 to 236. Dan Melidona comes up with a win. He'll take home the trophy. We'll talk to Dan and we'll talk to Tony when we come back to Fredonia. Lucky Lanes is our site. This is Beat the Champ. We'll talk to the winners coming up next. A dramatic 246 to 236 win for Dan Melidona over Tony Dolan. A great match that came right down to the end. I think sometimes you can intimidate your opponents. Dan was not intimidated and he answered the challenge, didn't he?
Not at all. He bowled really well. He had a couple tough 10 pins in the beginning there, and he just persevered and stuck through it, and he bowled a really good game.
Well, that close to being our first 2-time trophy winner, but I'm sure there's a good chance you'll be back next month to try to do that again, won't you?
We'll try.
Right.
Kept the pressure on there, Dan, very well. A little nervous there in the 10th frame. That shot shut him out.
yeah, a little pressure in the second ball, but I mean that's bowling sometimes.
That's absolutely right. Score looks good on paper, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yep.
Well,
right.
Congratulations.
There you go. So the trophy goes to Dan Melidona. He's our weekly winner here from our first show at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. Sue and I come back to wrap up a great start to our trip to the Southern Tier when Beat the Champ returns right after this. Well, this place lived up to its name, Sue. We saw good bowling and we saw a little bit of luck and a great match to wrap things up as Dan Melidona takes the trophy home by beating a guy that isn't beaten very often on this show. That's Tony Dolan.
Yes, it took a little bit of luck to beat him, absolutely, here at Lucky Lanes. And now he's got his work cut out with him. We've got 3 bowlers coming up next in this next match. We've got a local guy, we've got a guy we've seen before, Matt Sosowski, and we've got a guy from Texas coming on.
All right, well, we'll find out who's going to be lucky, who's going to be good, and who's going to take home the trophy next week when Beat the Champ comes back here to Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. We'll see you next week.